Might be someone else other than me.
And it's not
I wouldn't. I always would. It's probably not necessary. So that's it. It's in the case study, I want you guys to see the analysis of the that's I think that I'm going to end up doing a little more lecture on these.
We should have asked him about
Seems like he cares more about that.
yeah, you're right. Okay, ready? Okay, I sent it.
Well, this zoning change was converted. It seems more like, or they rezoned it back. But an ALF is quasi-permanent use. Sometimes a hospital that's quasi-public. So it may not have been referred, or it may not have come, never needed it, because ALS can be done.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but all they also list
Hospital complex. So the ALF ordinance, the site plan approval, this exists, this use, and then the site plan expires. That makes sense to me.
Alright, so, yeah, okay.
How would you categorize or compare special area plan with a PUD or a PCD?
Oh, I don't know. I think that a special area plan is not like a PUD because it exists without an application. Or does it require an application? Oh, maybe it's more similar than I think then. I don't know the special area plan.
That's my interpretation.
All right, well, I'll be interested to hear about it.
No, it's a very specific staff recommendation not rezoning.
Only if it receives environmental, either the staff analysis or the outcome.
Have substantial.
If it was extraneous,
So
if there's no here, there's a benefit like no need to address it unless it was an important part of the staff analysis or ended up
So as you such
The David 90 did was. Okay. That's my point. Okay.
Do you agree that the proposed change is consistent?
it was on for so should I say zone B2? Or should I go? Oh no, I should have this separate and then I'll say previously zone.
Just rain light.
Guys, I'm gonna interrupt you for a few minutes, and I'm gonna run through some material on rezoning.
Yeah.
It is not gonna be on the midterm, but I'm gonna walk through it with you now because it might be helpful in your finishing up your case studies. Because I'm asking you to do a case study about a rezoning. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some of this. I hope that it will be helpful, and again, I'm not gonna put questions on the midterm about this, but I want you to be exposed to it and have a chance to ask questions about it before you complete your case studies. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, rezoning, when do you need to rezone? In a theoretical sense, a rezoning is warranted when the character of the area has changed and the existing zoning no longer serves to advance the comprehensive plan, the goals of the comprehensive plan. All right, that's the theoretical, in practice, reason for a rezoning. It assumes that the existing zoning scheme is perfect, and you only need to change it if something else changes in the community. But in reality, you need to rezone if your project doesn't fit within the parameters of the existing zoning. Very simple. The use or the intensity that you want for your project is not permitted by the existing zoning, and you think that a rezoning can be successful. In all the cases that you're studying, as some development team did that analysis and reached the conclusion that they thought they could get a rezoning approved. And rezoning always requires some sort of consent or joinder from the current owner. The development applicant might be the current owner. They might have already acquired the property. Very often, however, it's not. The applicant will be a contract purchaser. Okay, so you identify property, you get it under contract, and the closing of the deal is contingent upon you obtaining all your development approvals. So then you're doing the development approval as a contract purchaser, not as the owner. But the city wants to make sure you're not just doing this on the come, so to speak, so they want to make sure that you get the joinder of the current property owner in the application.
That joiner would be compensated in the event of failure, though, correct?
Well, it can be handled on a contractual basis in a lot of different ways. If it's unsuccessful, obviously the zoning doesn't change and the property owner is left in the same position they were before. And if it's approved, then the closing will occur. So the compensation for the land will be the compensation for participating in the rezoning, usually. Follow me?
You're talking about the soft cost, who's paying for it?
Yeah, but.
The applicant will typically pay all of the soft costs of processing the application. And the landowner just signs applications and signs joinders and cooperates.
Not 4 feet. I mean, if I own a property and I'm gonna help a developer make $1 million, I'm not just gonna sign and say, fine, I want you to go and see if I'm gonna make you a millionaire without some compensation from me.
Well, they're gonna buy the land from you at the end.
No, but
And
that's
that's
if the application is successful, but what if it's
Right.
not successful?
Then you might get, it depends on the terms of the contract. You might just be put back in the position you were in to begin with.
That's not good for me, no good.
And usually the purchase and sale contract will say something like, the seller agrees to sign any applications and cooperate at no expense to themselves. That's usually what the purchase and sale contract will say. Okay, criteria for rezoning. You've probably seen these criteria or something similar in the staff reports that you're pulling for your case studies. Each one can be a little different, but these are some typical ones. They analyze whether the proposed zoning district is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's the preeminent criteria that the rezoning must meet, that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. They'll consider whether substantial changes in the character of development in or near the area under consideration support the rezoning. Okay, there's been a general intensifying of uses in the vicinity of the rezoning site. There's been those kind of changes. There's been an increase in density that's driven greater traffic anything that suggests that a change to the zoning is needed because of changes in the neighborhood. They analyze whether the character of the area is suitable for the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district and is compatible with surrounding districts and uses. So you might see something like, you've got 5 unit per acre residential here, and you've got 15 unit per acre residential here, and you want to rezone the middle piece that currently is agricultural at 1 unit per acre. You want to rezone it for true residential development. They're going to want you to be somewhere between the 5 and the 15, and you're going to answer these questions by saying the character of the area, the proposed zoning is suitable and compatible because it serves as a transition between a higher density area and a lower density area, that kind of justification. The response to these criteria is what's called a justification statement, typically. You write a justification for the rezoning that you're seeking, or your lawyer will write it. But I want you to know what it takes to get this done. The proposed district will not create an isolated use or constitute a special privilege. So you're not the only person in the entire block who gets high rise. The proposed district, will not have an adverse effect on property values. These are the criteria that you're going to see analyzed in those staff reports that you're pulling on your rezonings.
By the way, when will you post your PowerPoint?
I will do it within a few days. Might maybe even do it tonight if I don't fall immediately.
Can we induce you to do it tonight?
I will do my best. This PowerPoint that I'm pulling, this presentation I'm pulling this from, it has a whole bunch of slides that are review slides that come ahead of this about the stuff we've already talked about today. So I just flip past. Okay, so these are typical. Each city can have somewhat different criteria, but that first one is critical. The proposed zoning district is consistent with the plan. There's a procedure that you're going to see generally described in the documents you're pulling for your case studies. The rezoning begins with an application, and as a practical matter, you should do that sort of community information meeting and things like that before you get too far down the road to make sure you know what the neighborhood wants and what the neighborhood's going to oppose. The rezoning application undergoes review by staff, similar to the DRC review we talked about with site plans, but it's at this somewhat higher level. Some cities will circulate it to all these agencies, but others are reviewed only by the planning staff. There will be a requirement for public notice. There will be a review by an advisory board, usually a public hearing in front of something like the Planning and Zoning Board. It's at that public hearing where, if you didn't do your diligence with the neighborhood association, the homeowners association, or the civic association, this is where your opponents are going to come out of the woodwork at the first public hearing. Because they will have received a letter in the mail if they're within 300 or 500 feet or whatever the criteria is, and they would have seen the signs on the site, or they would have seen the notice posted in this, in the city hall or something. And at the public hearing, ideally that's not the first time that you want to be aware that the opposition is going to come. You want to have fleshed it out with a community meeting beforehand. So the public notice is typically mailed to owners within a certain radius of your site. Posting of a sign, sometimes an ad, sometimes some combination of those three things. The review by the advisory board. This is where the neighborhood will appear, and there will be a recommendation made by the advisory board. Typically, a recommendation of approval is what you want, but don't stress, because sometimes you just need to take the hit and move on to the city commission. It's an advisory board. Some cities, city commissions won't approve if their advisory board rejected, but sometimes you go the political route. You convince the city commissioners that the planning and zoning board got it wrong, and you can overcome that negative recommendation at the advisory board when you get to the city commission. You got to know the politics. And city or county commission rezonings have to be approved by ordinance. And at the city level, that always takes 2 readings. At the county level, it's only 1 by statute. 1 or 2 hearings.
They voted each hearing.
Typically, yeah. Sometimes they'll just vote to pass, not approve. Sometimes, and they're just passing it on to the second hearing. Sometimes they have a public hearing and only one or the other. Sometimes they read the title and they pass it to second reading and they have no public hearing at the first and they only have a public hearing at the second. Some of them do it at both. It can vary a bit. And I'm just considering whether that's really all that I wanted to go over with you right now, because the appeal process is a whole nother discussion.
Is that usually done with an attorney, or do you see people get up there and
Get the rezoning themselves. I don't very often anymore, honestly, but I wouldn't be there usually if that was. So people use an attorney. Excuse me. Sometimes the architect, if they have an architect involved, the architect
yeah, I've seen a lot.
can make a presentation and handle a hearing for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Or a planning consultant.
Or a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
It's like really big.
Yeah.
Like,
There's no requirement that it be done by an attorney, but we do a lot of it. We write the justification statement, but again, it's a team effort, because you folks on the development team, you provide the facts that the lawyer relies on and uses to build an argument that we meet the criteria. Okay? That's what, so you work together, but understand what you do and what the lawyer can do. The lawyer can't do this in a vacuum with no understanding about the project and all the features you plan to put into your project. It has to be collaborative. And if you have an understanding of what the lawyer needs to write that justification statement, then you're going to efficiently provide the information and it will all go. It'll all hang together better. Because the other thing you don't want is for a statement to be made in the justification that's just wrong. And if that comes out, your credibility with the city is undermined tremendously, and you're working an uphill battle again to restore credibility with the people who are reviewing your project. And if there's an appeal and someone challenges it, you have a defect in your record. Okay, so the appeal is how you fix a mistake, but if your record below is incorrect, it's all that much more difficult for you to appeal and succeed on appeal. I think that I'm going to stop with that, and we're going to spend another exciting day some other time talking more about the appeal process of rezoning. But I wanted to get you through those criteria for now, and then you can continue working on your case studies at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So what,
Yeah, and so it's just all, like, I already got it on the PowerPoint.
now this,
Oh, okay. See, that's the part
Yeah, you can look on the PowerPoint and see it. I might have it, like, maybe I just have it on a meeting agenda or something like that, but I know it's like on
as long as you're sure
where it
it's not
says,
yeah,
yeah, we're talking about like the north, south, and west of it. Yeah, and it says, that one says.
I really just want to so it's fine, not just something to satisfy me.
Where would I? What about the ordinance? Is that what they just said? Right.
But you'll see, yeah, this is right here.
Okay, criteria 2 is rezoning, what we're
So in that, you want to talk about, say we'll talk about zoning, talk about
We do need to get to a comprehensive plan now. Oh, I can find that. Once they get finalized, can you find the comprehensive plan? That's right. Yeah, well this one, this one's just like the conditions for the, yeah, I think it's like, right.
They want a private
yeah, kind of like she's got no parents.
Eligible bachelor.
But it was never came to fruition. So the zoning was never changed, so it's still A1. They can revert back if it was overloaded, but in this instance, since it's in the zone, it could be a nursing home or a house or whatever. They can build on their, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for like, whenever it is, I don't remember. Whenever you have a chance, let's get that, I'll try to finish it out. Like a final rough draft, yeah, just fix it. All in order. Yeah, I think we got everything.
Like what did you do? Yeah. Oh wait, you think that should be the very beginning?
I don't know. If you come out with all your approvals, obviously you didn't need them. But if you get denied along the way, it's,
Yeah, I know.
you know,
Have a good one.
subject to the traffic. And do you have any more hearings or
Zone B2, so zoning.
Wait, you want that next? You want that added? So really, but still part of the introduction. The introduction will be multiple slides, it's not gonna be one slide. So first one,
I love you.
what should we say?
deal with politics.
It's 4 House bills on one
So you're gonna take us back to lunch? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who the preeminent lawyer is in Pine Crest.
Should that part be part of what we should?
No, we'll probably need to talk about it and then tell you what they think it might cost.
So then, okay, so then we'll stick that with that. Once that's my list. Oh, but then I can
Our language in Miami, in our Miami offices, we're pretty much all over.
zone.
Did you say it bigger?
I asked them all for them.
Did it get bigger?
Well, should have at least like.
Actually, it's a set.
REE Avenue in America. But, they, I mean, I can put you in contact with our zoning people in Miami. Sure.
So that, are we talking about the guy that like got all the land?
I got so many briefcases, I do so many different things. I don't want to be
Figure it
I don't
out.
wanna do the stuff.
Is that a long term?
Yeah.
So this is a set. So this is dedicated for my computer and like stuff. This is dedicated for all the other.
Is it the same project? But I would probably send you to.
Yeah, all three of us need to be at the counter.
Here's the
guy that
pictures
might
of the
have
room.
You saw that in the text.
Historic properties.
Remember that picture?
This guy is ours down
Oh,
there.
you got the.
But I would picture Iris, they're very busy.
Check this out.
Okay, so that's our first picture.
Yeah, sure.
That's in 53. This is how it was today. This was the initial, but all this was the extension.
You're not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
These are the slides that she prepared.
Is that the alternative to the?
It's much better. That's what I think.
If I do, if I can get the.
Well,
Okay.
Tell them what you
so
said.
then, so both papers and. Okay, so this is. Yeah, I did that too.
It says future, so. Oh, this is all the bill, by the way. It was a 10-year plan. So some of this hasn't even been executed. But all this is executed. Remember how there's no phase?
Okay, so then.
Your comment about the overlay, just all the below this up. Besides electronics.
Okay.
Okay, 92, the resolution.
Yes. Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
Should I say 6.9?
How many acres was it
You mean like
20
on
acres?
one side have a picture of the old hospital and on the bottom have a picture of this, just so that you can compare?
So there's probably stuff, I mean, the staff report.
Oh, and in the future, okay.
I'll tell you what, it highlights this.
No, there's probably a separate.
I mean, in the first.
Just Google it, Jerry Marshall.
I said, sorry.
That's
That's
right.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can put that there and then put little notes actually.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah.
So you're gonna post that tonight?
I think so.
Good. Thank you so much. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Assignment, yeah.
Here it is. And if you want to quote the 92 resolution, here it is. This one is set to. This resolution set the whole. Remember how you said.
Oh, it's the one you said? Okay. Okay, so I have. Any ideas what else you're saying here?
On your email back to the audience, so you can check essay, your essay.
Check what?
It says your essay.
Any changes that you guys want to put right?
Is it 6.9 about 6.9?
Should I put
I
acre?
don't know, this is not ringing a bell to me. Something I sent to Claudius.
He will reply to him. Let me find it.
So you just want these 3 points on that?
So you're 6 minutes old.
Yeah? You think just have it on the first one? Or should we do like just the other one? So now, can you send me a picture? You send that?
Okay, but this project is
I'll probably have to just, how are you sending it? Snippet of it or a PDF?
Oh, special area plan.
Because if I compress it to all the whole thing, it might just look, I could cut the whole section out.
Or you can use the section.
What do they call it? Is the acronym not correct?
special area plan.
Yeah.
He must have talked to me about whether it was done, whether that was a rezoning.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you find some more old ones?
Make sure you go back to each one. As a special area.
You mean the four streets?
Yes.
You write down what you
The creation of the special area plan might have been what was called by the project as having a rezoning to meet the
On this one?
requirements of the project.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
certain tract of land situated on 20.3 acres bounded by the following streets.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
It's okay, we got it.
And then what do you ask, wants us to do?
Those parcels which are adjacent to the original hospital.
Sure.
And what we have so far, for the city of Sunrise, we have this, but we're just trying to figure out, we need to go to Unicode and then add additional things as far as what they need from the developer.
This is, okay, what am I looking at here?
This, you're looking at the master plan of, like, cause when we looked at the minutes, or we got the minutes from the meeting, this is what we found to be like the code.
People that are
But
gonna
we were wondering, we were wondering,
they're gonna say
what,
this
like,
is it
are there
before it's
additional
rezoned.
codes that we have to
Who was up
add?
there saying?
Or, because the big streets right now, it went from PPP three to PPP. And that's what we're talking about, but there's other codes shown on the website today, this, all of it.
Yeah, I think we should
We're
say.
just trying to figure out how much of that.
You could, but then also have to explain.
Or can we just simply talk about?
Well, you need to look at the code sections that pertain to the rezoning. That would apply. So,
Let's stick with our. You stick with the verbiage and then to.
Jeanette, I think I found something.
Okay.
I think this be it? I'm gonna do it call it.
Now the developer wants to.
I just want
Okay, so how would we
Like,
kind of define?
we want this in the plan, and we want this
I
picture.
can't
We want.
they can't find anything about
Okay,
rezoning.
so in the next.
Like I'm looking, these we got in the minutes, that's where we got it from.
Showing
The first,
the zoning,
you go in the.
01.
There's a zoning map, there's master plan development.
Illustrations on images.
The minutes do have information, but not.
And then I don't know if you think it would be necessary to add the reasoning behind the developer's mind. Why they wanted to just to be.
Cause at the same time, we don't really have, what, 5 minutes, is it? We just don't want to.
I mean, and you can take, what did I say? I can't remember what I said anymore. You can take
Why they
whatever time
wanted
you
to
need to.
look at something difficult like this and then they say, because that's it. I don't think that's.
Well, I wanna ask you guys a question.
Is there like a search?
Unless you're having a label slides, but I have mine, I just, I have my study.
There's a
It's got
search.
a Charlie's.
Wait,
I'm
so,
saying,
realized,
Okay.
we realized the oversupply of
Yeah, it is
office space in the area,
16.
which is true. And that's why I'm bringing
Yeah,
up
six.
section, I don't explain it. Yeah,
What do you start
I would explain it too.
Just do
But
it.
I don't wanna double.
Okay, so that's what, no, not double.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing it.
The reason
See, 92,
all of this thinking to say what we're doing.
You guys look at the that's it on the first page.
I just typed rezoning on the search,
and resolve.
That's what you're gonna do last
and
time.
then procedures and
Now
requirements for
you
rezoning.
are acting as a developer.
3 different
That's what you did last time, right?
zoning districts that we're
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
sometimes I use Google searches to get through all this click, 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 click. And sometimes I come through this way to make sure that I get to the most current. So, introduction, zoning map, development review procedures, district.
But I've worked.
I just typed on the search button here, I put rezoning and it came up. It says procedures and requirements for rezoning, trade planning and development.
Sometimes they don't know how to follow.
And it's 16.
16-105.
But in our minutes, it says 16-109. So you're saying
Well,
there's
look,
Well, this,
no, look at them and see what pertains, you know, read them.
yeah, 9 is,
Yeah, it's just good.
just 105, 106. Every intersection has a number.
right, but this is saying that
Or you,
this
did
is
you
for
sign that? You're signing that?
development, and then yours is saying.
Okay, and was it,
You have to read.
and it was a rezoning to a planned unit development, right? Okay, so procedures 16-105, procedures and requirements for rezoning to planned unit development.
The textual, the text.
And then, so it looks like here, the first thing is a master development plan
Right.
meeting the requirement. The requirements has to be
Explanations.
established. And then after there is a master, so you need to actually read through the provisions and understand the flow of steps they're talking about. After the rezoning,
They actually.
then there's some sections on how the development has to conform to the master plan that was approved.
No.
And what the effective period is, and then supplemental, so,
And everything else.
yeah, and maybe PDD, that was a PUD, this is a PD.
So we are.
Right. But
But
there's nothing about PDD, you know.
You look at our.
No, I just did the other picture and we're gonna talk about
Oh, here it
how,
is.
we're gonna
You're
talk
right.
about how it was
16-109.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And we'll talk
Yeah,
about how
that-
there is
so
no.
that
I was trying to find it in
buildings
code.
in there.
It's criteria,
Yeah, it's
Why they
109,
choose
you're
this
right.
and say,
land development
we're
district.
gonna turn this into.
Yeah, it's a whole different story.
And then there's a, is there a procedure and what
That's
what
the reason why
can be
developers
included, what
they can
must
just
be
look at something
included.
and say, well, no.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so that's the criteria that your staff for when you find it are gonna analyze.
I feel like I never.
They're gonna say, yep, meets all the criteria, and that's how you got to, that's how the project got to approval.
Right,
Like, I'm
makes
sure that
sense
was,
now.
this is like an intense case under
Thank you.
it, compared to some of them, but.
It was easier than I thought. So, yeah, there's, search button here, that we just.
So I haven't studied,
And, it was, the one I
I
have,
realized the oversupply of the office space in the area. And
16-109.
You want to actually find it wasn't an expansion.
the reason why that's
But then it goes into A, B, C, D, E, whatever.
So what ties into the instruction is the site has been available for years. They cannot get it, the developer was interested in the site because of the oversupply of office space in the area.
Truly set up for sweeps.
For low, they wanted to develop office space. So it's something.
Right.
So was the city too.
Now, here's where you, I came up, right?